All right, so let's start from the top. I know you got into the wellness space with your dad, which of course I'm so sorry. His passing was a terrible thing to experience, but you do say that you believe that this had to happen to get you to become the person you are today.
Yeah, 100%. When my father passed, that was the most severe pain I'd felt up until that point in my life. But the day after he passed, I literally felt space to like occupy myself as a man and that part of my identity, which I hadn't felt before. And it was very clear. Um, and yeah, it was not easy moving through that, but it was the catalyst that really drove me to where I am today, where the depression that I felt in its wake was so deep that it forced me to use what I had, which was knowledge of acting, and cultivate some form of program structure around that in my own day-to-day life to get out of what felt like hell.
And when you say you finally had this space, do you think you just didn't have this space before because nothing of that measure slowed you down enough and it had to be something of that magnitude to make you finally stop?
Um, no, because I didn't slow down. I kept going. I ran away. I would say when I'm talking about the space, I feel that I, I'm gonna say something. I don't know if many men become become men, or they're just behaving as adult boys
Mm.
until the father figure in their life, it doesn't have to be biological father, until the father figure in their life leaves in some capacity. It doesn't have to be a death, but there has to be some sort of removal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something that um, you just kind of have to experience it, to believe it, and to know it. But for me, it was a very spiritual clarity that I had never experienced before, and I haven't experienced it since. But it was literally just like space was now open.
Was your, if you don't mind me asking, was your dad spiritual at all, or was this something that really just came to you out of nowhere?
It just came out of nowhere. My dad wasn't spiritual. He was very wise, had a lot of wisdom, and he was very intellectual. He was very smart and caring and gentle, but he wasn't spiritual. So for that to happen, and then everything that happened um, since, I didn't have a concept. I didn't have a dictionary for what I was experiencing. That wasn't the way I was raised. Fortunately, the way I was raised gave me a foundation to withstand, even though it was so um, trying and I was really testing at times. But I really credit where I grew up and him and my mother for molding an environment that we could be raised in, where when shit does hit the fan, you can keep moving as hard as it is. You can keep moving.
And I imagine that because you didn't really come from a family that was so mental health and all of that in your upbringing, was it a little weird for your friends? And I don't mean weird as in like you're doing something wrong, obviously, but when you kind of started to project a new way of thinking, did anyone say, like, oh, you're getting into that LA thing? Or did you have to convince anybody in your circle that you stood for what you're doing and you strongly believe in what you're saying?
No, I didn't have to convince anyone because I was one, I wasn't in LA. So it was happening when I left LA. But two, if anything, they were more surprised because I was kind of there's a word for it. I think it's called a fuck boy.
I'm
Before
familiar.
before all this happened. And so if anything, that was the major shift. But no, I don't think anyone was kind of weirded out by it because I wasn't, and this is an issue I have with the wellness community and times in the spiritual community, is it's not all flowers and sunshines and rainbows and unicorns. Like I was hurting and they saw that and they saw me responding with love and trying to explore this idea of unconditional love from that place. So they could feel the pain. They didn't see this projection. or this facade that I wanted to put up of I'm okay, I figured it out, everything's
Yeah.
no, I was drowning. And that's what they saw. And they saw me literally trying to climb to the surface. You can't ignore that unless you're absolutely sociopathic.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I don't have any absolutely sociopathic friends.
Did you have a moment, like a tangible moment where you were like, okay, I feel like this is that first step in making a change to being better again?
Yeah, I had a few of those moments, but on this road, as you may know, it's like you can take one step forward and three steps back.
Yep.
So that would happen quite often. I would say the first time I really felt like I had a stake in the ground was, as weird as it sounds, it's like around the time COVID started,
Mhm.
because
You
I
probably
saw
needed more than ever, I imagine.
COVID.
Well, I'm in this time with so many people really being forced for the first time to look at themselves in the mirror on a deeper level. I imagine that your type of healing and helping is exactly what people needed.
Oh, needed. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, we hadn't been we weren't fully functioning as an organization at the time, but yes, absolutely, and we're starting to see that now in full effect. But for me, what that did, like in terms of taking a step forward, was it gave me an example of a large group, the world outside of me, feeling the way I'd been feeling the last 2 years. And so I was like, oh shit, okay, I just went through this shit. Like, I know what y'all are dealing with. This is scary, but I got through it and I'm getting through it. And now just having that example of like seeing people, it was just like, it was almost like I got to look in the rear view mirror
Mhm.
through other people and see the experience that I had had in the past through them and their
Right.
panic and their fear. And, yeah, as weird as that is, like that was definitely the first step where I was like, okay, I'm actually moving in the right direction.
I really like what you said about they saw you going through it and it wasn't all just rainbows and sunshine, because I think a lot of people, when they're trying to get better mentally, they're really tough on themselves when they feel like they've made progress and then they have those three steps back and then they think, oh, I'm broken, it didn't work, and they give up, they stop therapy. But I think that's what being a human is, that you're going to have amazing days. You can go on streaks of, completely happy and life is great, and then wake up for whatever reason and be sad again. And I think that it's giving ourselves just a little bit of space to recognize that that's being a human, and that you're not always going to have an answer for every feeling at every moment, but you just got to do the best you can. And I think for me, anyways, I had to come to the terms that my best today could be different than my best tomorrow, but it's the best that I can bring to the table on that day. And I mean, you can bullshit yourself, but I know for myself, did I do my best? Yes or no? And I think just being comfortable with asking yourself that question and being honest with yourself is just gives you a lot more like breathing room. I feel like you don't have such a pressure to be absolutely perfect, because it is, and journey is a little bit of a fringe word, but it is a journey. We're learning, we're growing every day, and things are always changing. It's like the second you think you got it, something's changing. So I think that's just like learning to ride the wave.
Hmm. I got
What's
a question for you.
Go ahead.
Say doing your best, because I feel like it's really easy to fall into this trap. How would you define doing your best?
Knowing that there are moments throughout the day where maybe I just want to be a little lazy here and there. Maybe I mean, I'm a nanny. So an example would be sometimes there are times where I think if we could do this, it would benefit my schedule more and be better on my timeline. And then I have to check myself and be like, it's not about you. It's about the baby right now. So what's better for him? It doesn't matter what's convenient for me. So I think those little moments of, am I being the best version of myself? And if the answer is I know I could be kinder in a situation or put in a little bit more effort in a situation, I want to like rise to that occasion. So I guess just some minor moments of the day where I know that I can show up.
That's beautiful. Thank
Thanks.
you.
I did an exercise with my roommates that you actually did with me, and it was the coolest thing ever because it was totally not planned. And you just asked me, we were talking about fear and flight and anxiety. And one thing that I'm constantly working on is being present. And enjoying the moments. And I found some answers, which it made sense to me because I'm like, why am I never present? And I realized a lot of the moments I'm rushing by are because I don't want to be in them. And it's not because they're awful. I'm bored. I want to go home. I have other things that are more fun. So on one hand, I was happy to realize that, oh, I'm not miserable. I just don't want to be in that position. So I'm trying to mentally go somewhere else. But I think just like taking in time and realizing that like you don't have to rush every little thing and I don't have to be fight or flight was it. I have to learn that lesson every day. I'm constantly reminding myself of that one, but I feel good knowing that it's okay, that I can have to remind myself and it's fine. Just implement it when I tell myself. But the exercise we did was you asking me if I'd ever felt unconditional love and where in my body did I feel it. And long story short, I felt it in my stomach. And then I realized that anytime I'm anxious or feel that fight or flight, it's in my stomach. So just to compare that, it's completely true what they say that the opposite of love is fear. That when I think of unconditional love, I get a release in the exact same place that I manifest fear in my body. So it was really cool to physically feel what I already knew, I guess, just to have it all link up that way. And I did it with my roommates and they felt the same thing. And for someone who has no idea where to start with just feeling good, even being able to smile, is that the first question you ask them if they've ever felt unconditional love?
Well, you look like you have no problem feeling good and smiling.
I try. No, I'm definitely happy. I'm just trying to be happy with what I have, I guess.
Um, well, I mean, it's a case by case basis. If someone's not feeling good and they can barely smile because they're hungry, you want to give them food. It's because they're thirsty, you want to give them water. Because they're not safe because they don't have a home, you want to give them a place where they can be safe. So it really depends on the individual. It would be a dick move of me to go out in the streets and like ask people this or have someone come to me and like in their state and like tell them to feel this way if their basic needs weren't being met. But
Yeah.
if your basic needs are met, that's one of the first things that we do. That's probably Nah, I would say the simpler question is asking what gives you joy?
Mm.
Just really understanding through the perspective of answering that question, what is it that gives me joy? And then allowing the sensations of joy to rush up. Because the unconditional love question is a bit deep.
Mm.
And it's like, what? Unconditional love? What are you talking about?
And then
But
where do you go if someone's like, nah, never felt it? You're like, oh, okay.
joy,
No, if someone just like answers that they've never felt unconditional love, where would you go with that then?
I would go to joy.
Joy. Did I tell you the
Joy.
happy project thing I did? Did we talk about this?
The what?
The happy project video I made?
Mm-mm.
This was about 2 years ago now, where I just had this idea to interview people and say, what is happiness to you? And the amount of time it took people to think of an answer was so sad. But even for myself, I'm like, how do I define happiness? It took people a long time. And then you think back to, isn't the point of life to be happy? Like, isn't that why we're here to, I mean, I guess there's a lot more to it, obviously, but I think one of the main points of the human experience is to find joy and to love life and to be happy. So it just kind of dawned on me that I don't think it's supposed to be that way, that we have to think this hard on what makes us happy because we're just so consumed by everything else that really doesn't probably matter that much.
Amen.
But it's
Yeah.
tough. And question for you. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, yes, I do. Other times I don't think. Do you think everything happens for a reason? Like even the random people that we don't even talk to that we just drive by. Like you just see a guy, you don't have any interaction with him. Is there a reason that that particular guy is next to you at the car line? Like what's that about?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I think everything happens. How about let's change that. Everything happens for dot dot dot, and you can fill in whatever you want. You can fill in that dot 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 with whatever you want, and that will inform what that reason is for you in that moment.
Hmm.
But I don't know if everything happens for. I I just want to like toy with that concept because I don't know if everything. I just don't know personally. I haven't created the universe, So I don't know if everything, happens for a reason, but I know because we can observe it happening that everything happens. And depending on how we perceive it, and receive it, then we can potentially put a reason on it or not. And
Well,
then what's behind that?
now I'm thinking everything must have a reason, but maybe it just doesn't have to affect us. Like obviously the guy next to you has a reason to be going where he's going. Just might not have anything to do with you, but we all have our reasons for what we're doing.
We all definitely have our reasons for what we're doing, but that wasn't your question.
Everything, because meaning that it would affect us happening for a reason.
And we're all interdependent. We all need each other. We're all connected. I just don't know what that reason is. Like one of my favorite things to do is I've made a list of all the people in my life that I can remember who have contributed in a way significantly that I can recount to me getting to this point in my life and remembering the feelings I had when I met them. And then taking that and exploring and dissecting what are the lessons that I learned from these people? What are the opportunities that I was given because of these people? How did my perspective shift because of these people? And for me, like, I guess that's my way of answering the question, is just sometimes doing an inventory is really fun of like how we got from point A to point B, if we're really interested in our journey. But then even that's our perspective on the possibility of why we met and why we connected and how we got here. So I think at the end of the day, everything happens for us to experience it and then to perceive it in whatever way that we are going to perceive it.
And doesn't have to be right or wrong for anyone, right? It's just perspective.
It's just perspective.
And tell me a little bit about, so your business now up and running, Breathe, Rise, and Thrive. Tell me about the concept and what I can already tell that you're more of a realist than a lot of, I think, unfortunately, the mental health space can get a little bit of a bad rep because you do find a lot of companies that are like, love life and like, let the droplets of the rain hit your pillow. You're like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you want something to connect with. And I guess everyone connects differently. So no shade to anyone else, but you seem more just like factual about things, I guess, if that makes sense. You're just, it is what it is. And you're saying that, we all have feelings and it doesn't have to be a weird thing. We can just cope with it and talk about it and not make it this taboo thing. So talk about what your company does differently than maybe other ones we've seen these days.
Well, first off, I'd like to know if you've heard one of our meditations, because I feel like there's a line in there that's talking about droplets on your pillow.
Oh shit. No, I haven't.
I'm joking.
You got me. I was like, damn, no.
How are we potentially? Well, we're different because me and my business partner, there's no one like us. No one has had our experiences. No one approaches the work, the same work in the way that we do because of our individual unique perspectives. And like, if there's any reason why we're different, that's it. Because plenty of people do this work. This is nothing new. People have been doing this. People have been receiving the benefits. People have been using it to manipulate people for years. But we're just doing the work. And I feel like what makes us stand out or distinct outside of our own unique personas is the fact that we are coming at it from we're actively working to create community. We're actively working to create like a village of sorts. So for example, we have our first cohort of our 6-week program that started last week. Out of that program, everyone is getting a customized journal and a mug. The person who makes the mug is in the course. He's a friend of my business partners from high school. He filmed the course modules. The woman that is making the journals is an associate of a friend of mine from high school. Cool. And what we're not making any money. So catch this, we're not making any money, but we are investing in these relationships. We're nurturing relationships with people who we believe in because they're doing the work, they're open, and they're committed to this practice, this thing.
Not to be cheesy, but you can't put a price on that, right? Boom, boom.
So I guess if anything, like in terms of what we're working to do in this space, I'm sure there are people that do what we're doing. Um, but I know that we are way more committed to community than we are any other type of relationship or transactional element. Like it's, for me, it's all, I've been focusing really heavily on money for the last couple of months with the business launch or the course launch. And I just realized maybe yesterday that because, there's the Bitcoin craze going on right now and like all this shit. And like, it's all the, get in now or you're going to miss this amazing opportunity. I'm like, shut
Stop.
the fuck up. Yeah,
Yeah.
chill. Um, for me, it's all about love. It really is all about love. And the reason why I say that is because you can get all the fucking Bitcoin, all the stocks, all that you want. But if you don't have love, if you don't have people to share it with, it doesn't fucking matter.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
I can miss this opportunity. But if I'm investing my time and my heart into people that I love, that investment is going to come back 1,000-fold years from now, tomorrow, even.
You just made me realize something, and that was awesome because even for myself, that question of like, what are you doing? That's so different. And, entertainment industry, it's competitive. I'm another blonde chick behind your microphone. I'm like, how do I stand out? How do I be different? And I think you just kind of gave me peace in realizing that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be so different, but just that if you're doing something out of love and because you care and because you want to connect with people, there's never there is a shortage of that. So there can never be enough of that. So if I'm just adding to that space and hopefully encouraging someone else to do the same, I think those are the ways that we create a better atmosphere. These small little communities are going to make the world a better place. So cool. I'm actually glad that I thought about that because yeah, I mean, it's like, I think we're all trying to be so different sometimes that we don't even realize how amazing it is to connect and be more alike than we actually think. And that probably speaks for a lot of the bigger issues we're seeing even today. Everyone just is fighting and the voices are so loud. I don't even think people really know what they're fighting about anymore.
We don't, because we're disconnected from love. I watched the Super Bowl last night. I couldn't even call it a Super Bowl. That was a bloodbath.
My family's from Tampa, so be careful with your words. So who are you rooting for?
It doesn't matter who I was rooting for. You won. You should
That's
be
true.
happy. Yeah, they destroyed Kansas City. And
Mm-hmm.
congratulations. But for me, what blew me, like I had a bit of an identity crisis or like an existential crisis because I grew up like a lot of kids in America, especially boys that played sports, watching the Super Bowl, watching it with my dad, watching it with the family. Like it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, like I haven't really watched it as much. I don't care about it. But after being in the environment that we're in with COVID and doing the work that I'm doing with emotions and mental health, watching the Super Bowl last night and was one of the most depressing experiences that I've had recently because I saw what you were talking about just in such a gross way of the competition, the me versus we, the us versus them, just like all these fucking celebrities getting paid millions of dollars to do these commercials and just like, fuck you, fuck all of you. The Weeknd spending $7 million on that fucking halftime show. Come on, the money, I'm sure dude helps people in other situations, but for me, it just hit me in a way where I was like, yo, this is like the epitome of self-indulgence.
And just, you mean like prioritizing all the wrong things in a time of crisis?
All the wrong things. I was like, it's like the NBA doing an all-star game. And LeBron's like, I don't want to do an all-star game. I want to be around my family. It's like, and the most beautiful part of the Super Bowl for me was the very end when I saw Tom Brady with his family.
Mm-hmm.
That to me that almost brought me to tears because I was like, well, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. And the game is cool. Competition is a subject for another conversation. But that right there was no competition in that moment. There was just cooperation, collaboration, and love.
Mm.
And that's what got me. So I just wanted to touch on that as someone that has been in Hollywood I was in Hollywood for like 6 or 7 years and was completely caught up in it and didn't realize how much until I actually stepped out and got a new perspective.
I hear you. And I see what you're saying, and I do agree with that for sure. But a part of me also did appreciate the fluff because I guess for me, I find myself turning to entertainment news as escapism. So for me, seeing the celebrities and the show was just, it helped me forget about how sad things were. And then the commercials, I thought, helped bring it back. Of course, some of them are silly, but some of the more serious ones that made you think. So I see what you're saying, though. And I think we have a long, long way to go, but I'm hopeful for people like you. And my connections make me nervous. So I'm going to ask one last question. I won't keep you forever, but you do so much work already helping other people. But when you're needing advice, when you need someone to be there for you, what's a resource or who do you go to that helps you get back in your space when you need a friend too?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So it's a few things. One, my business partner. My business partner has become one of my best friends, if not my best friend. I speak with him more than anyone. Soul brother, and we operate like one mind. Like we'll text each other the same thing, or just like I'm doing something as he's texting me to do it. And so having that open channel is like literally a lifesaver, a lifeboat for me. Um, Two, it's nature and just observing what is, because nature doesn't lie. You
Mm,
get what you get. And I just love seeing the different dynamics and relationships at play in an honest environment. Whereas with people, it's very rare to have any kind of honest interaction with another human because most people don't know who they are. So how
yeah.
can we be honest? Three, being back home and just like learning how to be more nurturing and caring and compassionate for my mom and my sister, and like really humbling me in that way. And four is just myself and my inner voice, my intuition. I don't really trust anyone outside of myself. I'm open to ideas, I'm open to criticism, I'm open to everything. But ultimately, the decision is made from in here. And if this is not balanced, if I don't feel like I'm connected to this, then I'm operating from a state of delusion. So that's like my
That was
four.
an incredible answer. And that makes sense because even with your business giving back to the community, it definitely seems like you invest a lot of time into relationships that deserve to be in your life, that are going to affect you in a positive way. So that only makes sense that you can then turn around and use the people that you've cultivated in your space to help you when you need it. So I'm really happy that they're able to serve that same purpose back to you. But thank you so much again for your time. And I look forward to posting your link and everyone can check it out. And I'm going to see your meditation and do the droplets of the rain and all the good things. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.